Welcome to Tech Tuesday. Now I have two cameras set up. One is Panasonic GH5 and one is Canon 6D Mark II. These are the two cameras that I'll be using for all of my future videos. At the same time, I'll be bringing these cameras to all the events that I'll be covering in future. These two camera setup will allow me to have multiple shots when I interview people. Now, I've been working on some schedules for this channel and my site TFIR. And the schedule is that every day there will be focus on one topic. Tuesday, I'm planning to make it Tech Tuesday. So on Tuesday, I'll give you a wrap up of the most read news item which has been a hot topic. And that's what I'm going to do today. I have picked some news items which I think are of importance, and these items also kind of show what is going on there. As I said, my focus is always on technology that are going to shape our future and going to affect our lives directly, and not too much about consumer. So the first news item of the day is Microsoft's Core OS. There has been a lot of talk about it, and let's talk about what it is. Microsoft has, a lot of different platforms. They have Windows for PCs, they tried mobile, and they also have Xbox, which is a very successful platform. Then they have Azure Cloud, they have Microsoft Server, and they're also working on their virtual reality platform, which is HoloLens. They have different operating systems for all these different platforms. It's a pain for developers to target different platforms. It's also painful for Microsoft itself because they have different internal teams that are working on these different products. I mean, they are kind of duplicating all the work that they are doing. Every team is duplicating the work. So by moving to one platform, or by making Windows more modular, it will allow Microsoft to share the code of a lot of components and separate them only when it comes to different form factors. That is what they are going to do. And this actually is not a new phenomenon. If you look at the KDE community, though I don't know if you can compare them, but that's what they have done with their own efforts. They have Plasma for desktop, they have for mobile phones, so they have been doing a lot of similar work. Canonical tried to do the same thing as well. And if you look at the Docker, they have kind of modularized the whole Docker. They broke it in pieces because that's the problem they were facing when because there was a lot of demand for Docker for Mac, Docker for Windows. Of course, Docker is Linux, so it's supported Linux, but there are different use cases where people were asking for Docker editions, and they were like duplicating all this work. By adopting a more modular approach and sharing all the code, now they don't have to. In the same code base, the same team works on the code base. The only difference is on the target device, and that's exactly what is going to happen with Microsoft's Core OS. I mean, they have already modularized a lot of things, like Xbox shares the same code that you see on Windows 10. Windows Central has done a very good story that you must read if you really want to understand what is going on with Windows Core OS. So they will have the one kernel which is there, then they will have a one composable shell out C shell, then we'll have composers, which you can think about. If you look at KDE, Plasma has a shell for desktop, and they have a mobile and for all those form factors. So similarly, composers will be for tablets or desktop and all other consumer devices. And then they will, on top of that, they will have a Windows Universal platform, which will allow developers to run their application across these platforms. And this is what is amazing. So if you look at it, the shell, I mean, you may, if you're a Linux user, you may be aware of shell thingy because we heard of Unity shell and GNOME shell. See, it's the same concept. So if you look at the mobile shell, that will be called Andromeda. Well, it has something to do with Android. Andromeda. The desktop shell will be called Polaris, and the touch-based Surface Hub will be called Aruba. And then there will be one more shell which will be for virtual reality or mixed reality, as Microsoft call it, which will go OSIS. So what will happen is that they will have the same core, same code base, but these different shells will allow to optimize and customize for that device without making any compromises or without doing all the underneath work at the Core OS level. And I think that's a great move because it's a great move for Microsoft. Now they don't have to waste resources on developing the same code for each platform. It is good for external developers because of the universal, Windows platform. They can target their apps across the platform that Microsoft is building. It's good for users also because they will have a more consistent experience across Microsoft products. Now the only problem is with the legacy apps, and Microsoft is known, I mean, they have a very huge ecosystem where, organizations like hospitals or whatnot, they run all those Windows 30, Win32 legacy apps. So that those apps will not be natively supported on that, but Microsoft can very easily do that either through Hyper-V or virtualization or through containers. So that is not going to be a lot of challenge. Microsoft, I mean, they have already been doing a lot of work in containerization space, so that will not be a problem at all. People try to blow it, but it won't happen. So I mean, just look at Xbox. You can play old legacy games that were for Xbox 360 on Xbox through virtualization. You can call it emulation or you can call it virtualization. It will be very minimalistic virtualization. There won't be any overhead. So you can still run legacy applications there. That said, this CoreOS is more focused on consumer devices, not on the legacy systems or professional devices. Though in the end there will be a convergence where that platform will run everywhere. The challenge will be for Microsoft how to maintain the balance, but I think that's a move in the right direction. Actually, Google should do the same thing with Android and CoreOS. There is no point in having different operating systems for different platforms. It should all merge, and only difference should be based the shell or the UI that's see across these devices. So whether it's Android Watch or whether it's, I think they call it Android Wear, or whether it's for Chromebooks or whether it's for tablets or whether it's for iPhone, sorry, Android phones, it should be the same OS. Apple, I think they're also moving in the same direction, because if you look at the iPad Pro, they have added a dock there which resembles the dock that you see on macOS. So anyway, I think the entire software ecosystem is moving in this modular direction, where you have one core that is running across platforms, and then you have whatever shells or whatever UI and other components that you need for the device. Just look at Fedora. They have Fedora Workstation, they have Fedora Cloud, they have Fedora for servers. It's the same core, but different shell or UIs or different components for that particular use case. So that is what is about Microsoft's CoreOS. The second story that caught my attention was Elon Musk has been selling flamethrowers. He's doing that through the Boring Company. I mean, Musk is a very brilliant guy. There is no doubt about it. PayPal or Tesla and SpaceX and now Boring Company. Though I really don't get the point of tunnels because we already have a huge network of roads, and tunnels can actually be more complicated than roads. And I also don't know who will own the tunnel, because you have to be in that parts. So who will decide that you get to sit in the parts or road? You get your car and you just drive. I don't know how is that good, what is going to be the business model. So I am a bit concerned about that whole underground tunnel thingy, but that's not a big problem. The problem is that he's selling flamethrowers, which seems more or less like a publicity stunt around the Boring Company, which is a boring company, it's just doing boring. But through that stunt, they have sold, already pre-sold thousands of flamethrowers. Why is it worrying is that there is already a lot of gun violence in America, and now you're selling flamethrowers where people can literally burn you. Just it's like having a big giant gas lighter that you can hold in a crowd and just burn everybody. So I think it's a reckless move just for the stunt, but well, he's Musk, so he can do whatever he wants to. He's got money too. Third news that is of importance to me at least is that US government is considering laying their own 5G network. US is one of the most developed countries, but the funny thing is, since I have lived abroad, I've lived in Europe, from infrastructure point of view, we are far behind. While the private companies are trying to catch up with 5G network, the US government is planning to lay its own 5G network. Well, is it good or bad news? Okay, if you think that the private companies are not doing it, then the government may take over. That's what they did initially with the interstate, highway system. But 5G network is much more complicated and serious than that. The first thing is that building standards around 5G network or creating incentives is a totally different thing. But building and owning the network is dangerous. That's what we have seen in Russia, China, and India, all those countries where government owns the infrastructure and network. And the problem that comes with it is that raises a lot of questions around privacy. And US is already a surveillance state. The Congress just passed renewed the law that allows US agencies to spy on us, despite the claims that they're making that the FBI was illegally spying on Trump. So it's like you cannot have it both ways. First of all, you're accusing the same agencies for abusing their powers, and at the same time you are granting them those powers again. So it's just a giant mess. But just put that together with the ownership of the network itself. If the government owns the pipeline, they know, first of all, they already have their surveillance tools through which they spy on us, whether it's a laptop or the mobile phone or whatever it is. On top of that, you also own the network, so there is no escape. So I think that's a very dangerous move. I don't know whether it was just a planning or they're actually trying to execute it, but it's a dangerous move. Of course, it's America. It's as much about private companies should lay all this network, but it's also about privacy and surveillance. So it's a very serious thing. I don't think that should be done. That's what the third news. The next interesting story is Amazon goes shopping. Linus actually showed a very interesting video of visiting an Amazon store and trying to buy and steal some things. He did not succeed though. What is amazing about this? A lot of people have made fun of Amazon that there will be a lot of shoplifting and it's spying on you and all those nonsense. Let me address some points. Let's talk about surveillance. Whenever you go to a store, especially in America, they do know what you're buying. They have cameras in the stores. When you buy with a credit card, they already know what you're purchasing. So that's not a big deal. Second is that they do have cameras in Amazon stores, but those are sensors. They are simply scanning the object, collecting, using machine learning and artificial intelligence to learn what you bought. What is truly amazing about it is that how efficient is the system. Just look at his video. He picked one object and walked across the store, put it somewhere else. So he did not literally buy it. Then looked around and picked that again. So if you look at the system, okay, this X object is sitting here. So when you pick it up from that space, the weight changes. So, and they know that it's you there through this all the sensors there. So you bought it. But when you put it back there, that means you didn't buy it. And now you pick it from somewhere else, and the store literally doesn't know where it was. So you could virtually steal it. He did a very brilliant experiment there. But when he opened his receipt, the item was charged for. So that means that the system is really smart. Now, there are a couple of things that are interesting. And number one, it shows the future of shopping. Does that mean that people will lose their job? Because all the cashiers and all those people who work in the stores, there won't be anybody in the store anymore. Yes, people will lose job. Technologies have always eliminated those jobs that treat human body as a tool. Like the moment wheel was invented, all those people who were carrying logs on their backs, they lost their job. So instead of 4 people carrying 4 logs, now you can have 4 wheels and one person can push that log, or you can actually have a horse. So yes, 4 people lost a job per cart, but look at the entire transportation industry. Millions of companies, not millions, thousands of companies, millions and millions and millions of jobs. The whole airlines will not exist without wheels. I mean, transportation will literally not exist without wheels. So while technology does take some jobs away, it also creates a lot many more jobs. Now what we need to do is to change our mindset. We cannot continue to think about human body as a tool. You know, you should think, forward, that what are the new ways that jobs can be created. You should look at new ways to survive. You cannot continue to do the same old thing. We don't use floppies anymore. So I think, with technology, things will change, jobs will change. So I don't want to be political, but the whole push for the oil industry and the way the Trump administration is trying to make it more expensive to use solar is a suicidal move. We should look at space mining and all those, software related or futuristic jobs. We should be more creative about jobs. We should not go back in time. So that was the job part of Amazon store. So I don't worry about people losing jobs, because it will create new kind of opportunity. You have to be creative about it. Second is that no, people are not going to shoplift. And first of all, the amount of money Amazon is saving through cutting all their employees, that they can afford a bit of shoplifters. That is part of any industry, any shop. There are some amount of shoplifting there. But what they are doing in this store, the opening the store publicly, is actually putting their machine learning and artificial intelligence to work. And about machine learning and artificial intelligence, the more you use it, the smarter it becomes, the better it becomes. So yes, there will be some shoplifting initially, but gradually it will all improve. You won't improve if you don't deploy it. So all those people who are saying that, it will, people will, no, they have no idea what machine learning is. They have no idea how artificial intelligence works. And the biggest thing that they don't understand is how Amazon works. That's how they work. They take big risks, they make big decisions, and then they end up winning the market. That's what they did with ebooks. That's what they did with retail, and now that's what they're going to do with brick and mortar stores also. So that was another big story that I was interested in. That's all I have for today. We'll see you tomorrow for a Linux coverage. If you like my work, please don't forget to subscribe this channel and like these videos. And I'm sure you're aware that I'm also on Patreon, so you can support my work by becoming a patron. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.